Hey everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for spending some time with me. Today I am looking for something that's just sew some bright colors together. It's been pretty gloomy here for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. I think we had maybe an hour and a half of sunshine in there. And while I'm all for a nice rainy or snowy day where you can snuggle in and sew or read or whatever, this is going on way too long. And we haven't gotten much moisture out of it. So what I think I want to do today is to do not necessarily really wonky fans, but just wedges sewed together, lots of bright colors. I don't think I'm going to use any black and white prints or stripes. I'll give you a minute to recover. I just want something bright and happy. And I think this will do the trick. It's not going to be anything new and amazing. A couple of different things I want to try, but it's certainly not going to be, hey, look at this fun new technique I found. I did go down into my stash and pull out some fabrics. And I have my bag of strips from my stash up here. It's been interesting. I've been cleaning out my quilting studio. This year marks my 50th year quilting, and I swear I had some projects from 50 years ago, and I have been doling out that, not doling out, just wholesale handing those half-finished projects and a whole lot of fabric to quilting friends. So I'm happy they're getting used. But in the process of going through everything, I am finding things that I'd forgotten I had that I would like to use. So I have some of that in here as well. We'll get started on that in a minute. I do want to remark on last week's piece where we did the funnel cakes, the wonky 9 patches that turned into funnel cakes. And a friend of mine saw the picture and she said, oh, it looks like shoes from a Disney villainess. And I don't know, maybe I should have been insulted, but I don't think she meant it that way. And I thought, you know, she's not wrong. It looks like the heels on the back of them. So now that's all I could see when I look at it. And I may have to do villainous heels. I love that. Wouldn't that be a fun quilt? I think that'd be great. So that is, I'm still thinking about it and working on it. And I think I really have to do a red, white, black and white piece for the Alice quilt out of that. This is one reason the Alice quilt may never get done, because I keep thinking of things that should be added to it. But, you know, a funnel and Alice going down the rabbit hole, I just think it really needs to. Oh gosh, am I going to have to put a rabbit at the top? Lots of things to think about. All right, so let's get started on this. The first thing I want to do is to try doing it with a paper foundation. And wouldn't you know, I just set out the recycling of cardboard and paper, so I am going to be using recycled printer paper rather than recycled stuff from my recycling bin. So I have cut it into just one piece into 3 different square-ish shapes, rectangle shapes. This does not mean the blocks are going to end up being rectangles, but I want this to sort of keep me in check as I'm doing these fan shapes, the wedge shapes coming out from here, that I'm not doing a rounded piece here, which I may do, but to begin with, I just want to start with a base shape that is a rectangle. I think that's where I'm going with this, that I then want to put it together as blocks. Not sure. It's just, I want an exuberance of color and bright. I just need it right now. And I think I will want some that are quite long and narrow, and some that are squat, some that are square. So I'm going to start with that, and let's do a sort of long, narrow piece here. And I have lots of stripes, or I will cut strips, and then instead of cutting wedges, I think I might just sew them as wedges. No, maybe not, because then I've got a lot of stuff that I have to trim out here. So I think I'm just going to cut a few strips here and come back, and then I'll start stitching them. And when I do that, I'm going to use a smaller stitch so that I can take the paper off easily from the back. Anyone who's done paper piecing knows what a lovely fun time that is. Let me cut some strips and I'll be back. I have a few strips wedges here, and of course if you have a wider strip you can cut it so that you actually get 2 wedge shaped pieces. These are actually kind of ideal for the edges because they're going to be square anyway, or perpendicular I guess, or you can trim them into more of a wedge shape. So I have some that are pretty wide and a couple that are pretty narrow. Narrow, long ones are harder to get a really defined wedge shape, but I think when they start coming together, that's going to happen all right. And these are probably mostly longer than I need, but that's how we roll here. So I'm going to start out with, say, this piece. Let me just lay it out and see how it's going to look. And then let's put the pink one next to it. This isn't going to have very many blades on it, but that's okay. And here's a green one next to that. And how about this orange one, which is a little wider? Can pretty much fill up that space. And so I get that burst of color and a fan shape. Now, this could be more angular, but this is a pretty narrow strip, a pretty narrow piece here, base piece. So I can't get too much out of that. If I want to make this more angular, I can simply stitch it that way. I can decide that I want them all to meet in a corner over here, but that's going to be a lot of bulk. Not sure that's what I want to do. So that's just part of this whole thing. And I want it finished right to the edge. So fans will typically have this rounded shape, and then you have background that fills out the corner. And I will give that a try, see how I like it. But for right now, this is going to be following that shape. I'm just wondering here as I'm playing with this, if I want to maybe have another piece here, but always remembering that I've got, of course, seam allowance coming in here. So I will for sure sew these on. So I'm going to start out with this one just laid flat, and then put this one right sides together, and then I'm going to just kind of do a check here to make sure that it's actually going to cover at the top. Looks like it will, so now I'll just do a 1/4 inch seam down there. And I think it will be no surprise to you that I just continue to do the same thing. But in case there's someone who hasn't done foundation piecing, next strip goes on. And of course with seam allowances, it pulls everything in, so I do have room for a short piece here, and I think I might make it blue because I can just use a short piece. So I'll just add some blue on there. Here's a finished fan shape. Now I can trim it to this size and match this paper, or I could make it kind of wonky, maybe not quite square, have a funky corner here, but I think for my purposes, I'm just going to trim it to the paper. And, oops, sorry, this does not have to be a precise thing, of course. If I've got a little extra space there, I can make the piece a little bigger. And this corner is pretty locked in. This is right at, the point is right at the corner here, and I could fudge a little bit because the seam allowance is going to take that up, but since I've got it just about perfectly there, trim this side because it's a little, and if this isn't perfectly straight on one side, isn't going to break my heart. So, you know, maybe at some point I will trim it down to a rectangular shape, or I can leave it this kind of wonky shape, which is puts us in a little bit of trouble up here. And you know, it doesn't look very fan-like then, does it? It looks kind of like it's leaning. Not sure how I feel about that. I'm gonna trim that up a bit though. So we can leave it that way for now. Now, in case you have not done foundation piecing, I have used a, what did I do? I did a 1.5? Yes, I did a 1.5 stitch length so that that perforates the paper and you can pull it off easily. I started out, I forgot to shorten the length, and it still works okay. So just find a stitch length that allows you to take off the paper easily, but won't make you pull your hair out if you have to rip out a seam. But we're not about ripping out seams. We're doing improv. We will just figure something else out, right? I could also kind of do that if, I don't know. This doesn't have that classic fan shape that my brain seems to want for this project, but let's leave this for now and do a couple more and see how I feel about it when they go together. So this time, let me take a wider, which of course could be long, but let's do a wider one here. And I'll be cutting some more strips and just doing the same thing, basically. You don't need to watch me do that. Of course, one of my options, instead of making this a fan shape and these being blades, I could alternate where the wider part of the strips are, so whether they're on top or the bottom, and then I get a different effect. But honestly, that might be all right too. It's not what I'm going to do in this particular case, but that's an option as well. It's an improv look that's a little different than this improv look, but certainly doable. And since I'm just looking for an exuberance of color, but I guess I want it to be a little bit controlled in that I want to have this basic concept of wedges coming together. Originally, my brain was thinking fans, and I'm not sure if I can get my brain to think of anything else. We'll see. But for now, I'm just going to continue with the wider part of the fan blades, always toward the top. I might try some different fabrics in here so I'm not matching all of those so much. And onward, more strips. I'm partway through this one. In the previous one, I started in a corner and moved over. So this would be like a right angle. And you will often see in traditional fans that they do this. It starts as a square, which turns out to be half a fan. So this goes out this way, and then there's another piece that goes out that way. Of course, perfectly acceptable way to do it. For this one, I'm not going to do that with this. I'm not going to add another one that goes over there, at least not as a conscious design decision. But on this one, I started in the center. So this is the piece that's just laid on the paper to begin with. No sewing until I put this one right sides together and flipped. And now I'll just go the opposite direction. My brain is much happier with this. I think it wanted a more traditional look, and for some reason, I guess there is not enough wedge-looking shapes here. Because they were so long and narrowish, you don't get that wedge effect that you get here. I am also leaving plenty of room up here. You can see the paper runs right there, but this gives me the option of it being a taller piece, which I think I will want. Now I'm going to fill in this side. Now my brain is saying, yes, yes, yes. This is what I was thinking of. Just to point out on this, once I added this piece on, I still had space here to fill, and I didn't want it, this is so small that most of it, if not all, would be caught up in the seam with the next block. So I decided to make this a more drastic angle there. And now I will just trim this off. Here I am, and I have choices. I can trim this into, let me see if I can find some paper. We can see what that would look like. I can trim it into a rectangle shape. Like that, which would be perfectly acceptable, and I actually rather like that. And it would still maintain that fan shape, or, you know, sun rays in the morning or something, evening. Pink in the morning, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky at morning, sailors take warning. Is that how it goes? I don't know, I'm in a landlocked state. Now, other choices, I could trim this straight across here at the bottom, and then make this a circular shape and put it on the background. I could still do this, but then just applique this wonky, oh, that's kind of a, I kind of like that idea actually. Applique this wonkiness onto the background, which is going to be white. So let's see how that might look. If I did that. That would be kind of fun. The applique would be kind of interesting. I would want to go press toward the longer piece, or press the seams open so that you wouldn't have this funky left over here. So if I press the seam open or pressed it that direction, then those would be even there. Kind of liking that idea. So we will, well, I do know that I want to cut this straight. The other option, a typical fan might have a circular applique shape here, which, you know, I could do a funky shape, but I really like the idea of sun rays, morning, sunrise, sunset, something. I think I would call it morning sunrise so that we have this exuberance for the day. It's a little exuberant for night. So I will cut that straight, semi-straight. All right, let's just do something instead of all the time. Do I, sorry about all my humming and hawing here. What if I were to add on another piece over here so that that really is straight that way, which I think I would want to do if I'm going to applique here, sorry. So if I cut it, say, straight across here, then I've still got a little bit here, that I could add another piece on, and then I've really got that long piece that I could see. Now I want to applique this on. All right, this one I'm going to leave for appliquing, and I'll add a piece on here, and I'll come back and trim this. And also I am going to change how I have the seams pressed here. Hopefully I haven't run over too many seams. All right, so I'm going to add a piece on here, trim this straight across, and then redo the seams so I don't have any of this extra seam allowance hanging out here. Now I'm ready to trim this, and I want to make sure that that is my limiting factor there, but I can shift it so that I get more of this gold or more of the blue on that end, or try to kind of even it out. And again, I don't want this to get completely lost in the seam, nor do I want that to happen over here, so I'm going to cut it about here. This isn't quite straight here, I've got a little bit of gap there, but it's okay because that will be well within a seam and the seam will still hold. So here we have this. This isn't looking very wedgy over here, but that's all right. Now we're looking at a band shell again. This is deja vu from the Dresden plate, and actually it's the exact same process. It's just that Dresden plates have a more gussied up edge. So do I want to applique this to a background, or do I want to cut a circle? Of course, I can always cut this into a curve and cut a like piece of background and stitch it. But where's the fun in that, right? I like having this extra long piece here. I'm almost thinking that I would want to trim this back a little bit just so I have some more variety in here. Actually, it would have been nice if that one had been longer, but it's not, so here we are. All right, I promised I wasn't going to do this, but I have to do it just to try. You knew it was coming. I'll be back. I went down to my black and white stash, which I am proud to say is now all in one place since I've been trying to clean up my studio. And I don't want to really in your face black and white. I want it to be pretty subtle, if I want it at all. I'm not saying this is a done deal. Pardon my elbows in your face there. Do I like that better than plain white? You know, I think I do. Boy, what do you think? I'm pretty sure I want to do one or the other, which is not what I thought I was going to do when I first made that, but something to be said for both of them. This sort of pulls the eye away from this a little bit, which is both good and bad because I want this to be the focus, but it's good to have the eye move around a bit. This is very bright in contrast with this. It doesn't take the focus away from here, but it's very bright. And of course they aren't going to be quite that much there. So I don't know, what do you think? Maybe I should do half of it in white and half of it in black and white. Make this be a sample, a learning piece. And I would want it to break right by one blade. Oy. What I should do is take a picture of it and ponder it for a while, don't you think? But I really like this half circle fan, this semicircle fan. I'm a fangirl of the semicircle fan. All right. So see, originally what I had planned to do would be to have something that I originally described. Like that. Just look at all the pretties that go away then. And then have another piece and just have them all be up against each other, which would create another pattern and look all together. I'm not opposed to that idea. I could have one piece like that and then have the rest be the rectangular, and then that one sunburst would be the focus. That's a possibility as well. I don't know, what do you think? Love your comments in the comment section. What your choice would be. This is one of those I'm going to have to think about it and come back and look at it. Things. I'm almost thinking that if I do this, I would want to do another one where I've got another blade that's coming out further and have these be a little more uneven. So this is just graduating down. So I might want this, for example, to be a little longer and this one shorter. Or at the very least have 2 or 3 of these that are longer than the others, just for some interest. All right, we're going to think about that. You're going to let me know what you think, and now I'm going to do another squarish piece, and I think that I will do it like this one again, where I start in the center and move out. And then I will hold myself to trimming that down to a rectangle. And we'll see how it looks when we start putting them together. This one, I don't dislike it as a block, but I'm less and less inclined to like it for the piece that's in my head, which is revising even as we speak, but we'll see. So I'll do another rectangular piece. This one we're going to think about and discuss among ourselves. Let me see if I can do one that is not on paper, but still a tall, narrow one that starts in the center. Let's see how that goes. The paper, usually when you're doing a foundation piecing, either on paper or sometimes you might do it on muslin for, I don't know, log cabin type of things, but in this case, I was using the paper just as a guide for me because I know how my eyes and brain don't work, and I would have ended up with this piece way off over here and this one too short because it's that whole spatial relationship thing that my brain just doesn't do well. So that for me was just a guide. It wasn't because I needed it to be precise that I'm drawing on specific lines and doing little tiny pieces. It's because my brain needed that. Yours may not. So the paper can be kind of a pain, to be honest with you. When I was pressing open the seams on this piece, I had to remove the paper first and redo the seams. And, you know, repressing seams is enough of a chore without having to take paper out before you do it. So I am going to start with a center wedge and work out, and we'll see what happens. I don't seem to have, I mean, this is a very yellow, green, orange thing, I need some, I think some more of the cool colors. So, I don't know, actually I could use some more warm colors. You know, I could just use some different fabrics. There we go. I'm going to go cut a few wedges and then I'll be back. I guess I fibbed. I did cut some strips, some wedges, but then I started sewing them. I am doing it without a paper foundation. I am pressing the seams open, if for no other reason than to mitigate the shadow through. And I realized that I have no red yet, so I went to my Ella stash and pulled out a bit of red. I will need to put red elsewhere in the quilt so you are not, it's not the only piece in it. That would not be good. Here is a wedge shape I could use. And this is where the paper helps me, because I'm going out into this huge fan shape again, which is okay, except that I want a square and my brain just is not picturing that square without something under it. So, you know, the long, thin thing, I think just is not going to work the way I envisioned it. The long, narrow bit. Because you aren't going to get that fan effect, which was, of course, part of the problem here. I think I'm going to have to trim that straight. The question becomes, then, am I going to be happy with it? Sorry, I'm doing a lot of thinking to myself and giving you dead airspace here where I'm not saying anything, but it's because I'm pondering and not necessarily liking the results of my pondering. That is about as much as I'd want to do. I almost need wider ones on the sides so that, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do this one and cut it to that square shape. See, I'm not getting that piece up there. This is exactly the long way around, but at least it gives me, yeah, I'm not liking how that's cut off and it's not a wedge looking shape. And in a way, it's okay if it's with other pieces like this, because they're not fan shapes anyway. But if I were to finish this out to be a half circle fan shape, then I could cut it square, and I think I'd be happy with that. I just don't like the quarter circle ones. So I think I will finish this out and then trim it to a square. Not a square, but a rectangle. So what I could be doing is, depending on how, yeah, see, this is why I need paper. Want those up a little higher yet, and I'm losing all of this up there, unless I move that up, in which case I lose it down here. Rethinking my whole concept, but I'm going to keep putting on some wedges to get the half circle. And we'll see what happens. I may hate it. I may love it. The logical brain finally took over from my spatial brain not doing anything. These wedges have to get longer as they go out. See, I'm telling you, I'm an intelligent person. I like math, I like geometry, but spatial relationships, okay. So I will just do some more wedges, making them longer here, and then we'll cut a rectangle from this and see where we're at. I decided I didn't like this teal in there, so I swapped that out for a green print and made it shorter, and then this final one longer, which I think will finish off nicely. Now down here, I have the issue that if I'm going to square this here, I'm actually going to cut these off. So I'm going to trim this into a circle, just as this is going to be a curve. Maybe not a regular curve, but a curve here, and then that will be cut straight across in keeping with that. So I'm gonna give that a go, and then we'll come back and see how it looks. It is becoming clear to me that I am never going to get another rectangle out of this process. I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this, I was thinking I'll cut the straight line here, and then that will tell me where I have to go. But what if we were to do this and have this curved like a traditional fan, but then here it turns into wedges? Oh, so here's how we could do the, ooh. I need one more, and I'll make it a print because there's lots of solids or near solids. And then have these be just straight-ended wedges. That one will be a little longer, and then I'll make one that's shorter over here to finish off that. Okay. Okay, that's it. I'm liking that. Is this enough of a print? I decided I needed purple in there, and no, too much purple on that side. So we've got pink there. Either that one or an orange, I think. Oh, but I don't want a solid, so let me find a different orange that isn't solid. Is this one long? Oh, we don't want this one to be long. So, all right, there we go. Another Michael Dabrowski over here. And then we will turn that into a quarter circle one, but a little funky. I like it. All right, I will do that and come back. And then, of course, we have to decide, is this going on black and white? Yeah, you know, that's a question for another day. Well, a question for today to be answered another day. I'm liking it. Because this is going to be a right angle-ish, I want to cut this straight part perpendicular to that. I think that's how I'm going to start out, and then the curve will come from there. Took me a couple tries because I didn't want it to look like a continuation of this curve or something that I just didn't quite get right. So I cut it again. It may need a bit more trimming yet. So here's a half piece, which of course will have either paper or, let's put some paper under it just as a sort of mock-up piece. Yeah, maybe we'll have 2 sheets of paper. Sorry, that paper rattling was probably loud for you. I apologize. So this will be one side. It's not a perfect half circle thing, but quarter circle, whatever that is, quarter circle, I guess. That could either be trimmed or add on another piece. But I like that concept where this is circular. That could be, I could curve that a little more to make it more obvious, but I'm rather liking that. I want to curve that a little more. Shall I do it freehand? Ooh, that's scary, but let's do it. Put on my glove just so y'all aren't worried about me. when there are lots of seams on a curve like this one, it's really not a bad idea because one needs to get pretty close in order to control those seams as you go. Well, that was just pretty bad. I will just trim that up with scissors. What do you think? That was just a pretty poor showing, Karen. Put that with scissors here. So I think that's going to be about it for today. It is not at all like I thought it was going to be, and isn't that the fun of it? I thought I was just going to sit down and speed through some slightly wonky fan blades and be done with it, but no such luck for me today. But this was fun. I hope you all had some fun too. And see, wouldn't that just be kind of interesting next to each other like that? What do you think? Starting to look sneaky and fun, I think. Ew. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So forget the background. We're just going to... Should have made that longer. I can't make it longer. This is from a layer cake. Michael Dabrowski layer cake. But I could do another piece here that is even longer, because clearly we aren't worrying about what the finished angle is. So I could do another piece. And it's gonna bug me if I don't trim that. Once I find my scissors, you can't even see it, but it's bugging me. I don't know. I think that could be kind of fun that way. What do you think? And then this piece that I don't particularly like anyway can just go in my crumb pile. Then, do we want to have backgrounds such as this, just for, well, you can see better what it's doing, if nothing else, when I've got paper under there. There's another piece, because I'm too lazy to go down and get white fabric and press it for you all. Sad as that. And then there could be another piece that fits up in here. This wouldn't have to continue on forever. This might be one motif here, and then another piece starts up there. I'm having thoughts. Many, many thoughts. I like it. I like it. Phew. I was a little worried when I did that one, but I like this. Let me know what you think. Should I do these separately and say have this on a black and white background, or and a subtle one, just a little bit of black on white so it doesn't overpower, or do it on white, put these together and put it on white, or put it on a black and white background? Let me know your thoughts. And they may be many thoughts, as I have many thoughts. Thank you all for joining me today. We'll, after I read some discussion on this, maybe we will add some more things next week, like something up here. All right. Thanks for joining me. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy. Please take care of each other. Be quilting. Peace out.